Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I'm your host, Doc Rotten, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, Christopher G. Mohr, and myself will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we are reviewing The Sadness, streaming now on Shudder. This is going to be fun. Let me introduce the rest of the crew, starting off with the one and only Jeff Mohr.
It's great to have the crew back together.
Yes!
Yeah, it's been a long time.
All right. Also joining us is Crystal Cleveland, the living dead girl. How you doing?
I am fabulous. I'm so excited to talk about. Well, you know, yeah, I'm excited to get into this. Like, and I've moved, so that's been nice. So I can like have maybe a cool background, kind of getting there. We'll be there.
You got some stuff back there. Yeah.
I got lots of stuff. I got
of course,
stuff.
you got stuff. All right, let's introduce the one and only award-winning filmmaker, Christopher G. Mohr. How you doing?
I feel like I have low production value compared to Crystal now. I don't like this.
Oh my God! That was my goal. That was my goal.
I have
there.
my Beetlejuice wall and a few things, but now I gotta create a lighting. I gotta create a lighting show.
Yeah,
I gotta go to Vegas.
Mine is so much better than yours, Chris.
Oh, there you go.
I feel like you're still at work.
Yeah.
I haven't hung stuff. I got to move my desk to get to the right place, but this will work.
There you go. There you go. Looks like you're in a closet.
I do like the angle though. Yeah, it's like because you were kind of facing.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's a
doorway or something.
It's a perfect size. It's a normal kid size bedroom, but must be a wide angle or I don't know, something about the camera.
Yeah. All right. Well,
there's the window to the black hole behind.
Oh no windows to black holes.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Someplace to put your umbrella. All right, we are going to review The Sadness, which is streaming now on Shudder. Some people get the joke. What we're going to do, we're going to give you our first impression. That will be spoiler free. Then we're going to get into a discussion about this film. And if there's ever a film that needs to have a spoiler discussion, The Sadness may be it. Not because it has any, crazy twist or anything. But once you see this movie, you will know why. All right. And then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score, a 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. And of course, we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. We hope you enjoy it so much that you'll hit the like button, you'll hit the subscribe button, you'll share with a friend, you'll hit the bell so you get reminded, and you'll give the screen a kiss. That's all we ask for.
Wow, that's new. That's fresh.
That's new. Yeah, I thought I'd just add a little spice to the end. Of course,
must be the movie.
Must be.
I don't. You shouldn't be influenced by anything behind this.
No. But of course, we want to hear your comments down below, and there might be some comments about this movie. All right, let's look at the card so we can get started. We are talking about The Sadness. Is available streaming on Shudder beginning May 12th of 2022. Written, directed by Rob Jabbaz. Both work. Sure. The cast includes Berant, Regina, Ying-Ru, Chen, and Tzu-Chiang, Wang. Maybe.
Good.
A young couple trying to reunite amid a city ravaged by plague that turns its victims into deranged, bloodthirsty sadists. It's pretty straightforward, simple plot.
Yep. I mean, yeah.
Yep.
Good.
All right, let's find out what our first impressions are. Starting off with Christopher G. Mohr, sir. What did you think of The Sadness, sir?
I will say this was one of the more shocking films I've seen in a while, due to certain moments. I think, the trailer sort of made it interesting, and I was kind of worried because I'm kind of burnt out on sort of like, I guess, zombie type films, even though this takes it a little different level. But I think one of the things I've found is I feel like non-American films seem to do a better job of telling new types of stories. And I think also there's also the worry because we're still, we're sort of a little ways out of the pandemic. But we still have some of the issues with that. And so now we're getting a lot of these films that tie into that. And I think, and this definitely plays into a lot of those things. It plays into the things we're dealing with now where people think it's a conspiracy or, or they think it's political and there's all these different things. So it is kind of interesting how you see this Taiwanese film and how they sort of deal with the same things we're dealing with, and at the same time, you have something that sort of takes these type of zombie type stories and puts its own kind of spin on it to where you actually have people where they're just very extreme in violent ways. And I will say, just letting everybody know, this film can be triggering for some people because there is a sexual assault aspect of it as well in parts. But
a lot of
but
I would say that's definitely, yeah.
But it's like if everybody just took their most evil impulses and gleefully went at it. And this is what this is. But I hate to say pleasantly surprised because there's a lot of unpleasant things that happen in this film, but I will say there were parts of the movie I covered my mouth in shock because I realized that American films, I don't think unless it's maybe more the indie level, I don't think it get away with a lot of things they sort of got away with in this film. Very shocking, even just the things they said or some of the acts that are portrayed. It felt like the zombie version of The Purge to some degree, but but we had, but it also had, it almost took elements of every season of Walking Dead to some degree, in parts. Yeah. And I was really surprised we delved into that stuff in just a very simple story. I will say there was a few moments that I got kind of annoyed with the characters' motivations and the logic, because I figure if people going crazy, I'm going to be looking over my back every 5 seconds. I'm not going to be, I think I'd, and there's parts where they're just sitting there screaming and they're not doing anything. And it's like, I'm going to run the crap away from this. I'm not going to keep screaming. Those type of things, but it had all those. It almost like took elements that we're used to and just made it more extreme. Like Train to Busan, there's a train scene where it's like you thought you saw that. We're going to show a more extreme part where it takes like the blood rave from Blade 2 to the nth degree. So yeah, it definitely doesn't shy away from the blood. This film can never, for this film to get an R rating, it would be 5 minutes long. But in those moments where it's like, oh my God, where it has balls to do certain things, I give it major props for that. But yeah, I enjoyed this, even though it was uncomfortable in certain parts. A lot of times I don't like films that deal with like any kind of a sexual assault, but I think in this film they kind of did it in a way where, but yeah, there's even a part that feels like Society. There's just,
oh yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's like a bloody version of Society. So it has all these things that feel like it's homages to things, but it's like, let's turn this to 11.
Yeah. It even tries to one up Scanners.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great movie.
Although that was awesome.
I will say, and I know Dave Dreher, who's usually here, always talks about the effect stuff, but I thought the effects in this was pretty amazing because it's one of those things to where it doesn't cut away.
Yep.
They just go in there and you see them ripping stuff up, and I'm like, oh my God, what is happening here? So I'll say I was shocked, but in a good way.
Shocked, but in a good way. I like that. Crystal Cleveland, you're up next. What was your first impression of The Sadness?
So here's the thing about this movie. There are going to be some horror movie lovers that are probably not horror movie lovers, but people who enjoy horror probably won't enjoy this movie because it might be too much for them. We're not talking about the Serbian film, but we're not that far off in some parts. Like it's okay. I don't know what this says about me, but the fact that I laughed so much during this film
I can imagine.
says there's something really wrong with me. Okay, I laughed. I was like, no, they didn't. Oh, but they did. So we were talking before, and when I first started watching this movie, it was like, okay, it was just your traditional, you know, film with this couple. They were, having a little bit of a fight, want to spend time to, oh, love. Yeah. And then the moment that you see the woman fall from the building actually is when I went, oh, well, this is good. This is good. And from there, I mean, you just see all kinds of business. And it's just quick succession. Like and like Christopher said, the story is very simple. It's basically this rabid virus or whatever breaks out when a couple is separated, and it's them trying to get back to one another. More so him trying to get to her, but that's how it is, and how they're gonna survive or how they are surviving, and then the chaos that ensues. And I do love that they basically address, okay, so this virus, what was it, Alvin? Was it Alvin virus or something?
Alvin.
Yeah. So this virus, everyone's being too lax, and because of course that's what's happened, in our country and stuff now. So I was kind of chuckling about that too. I was like, oh, here we go. Yeah, this is fun. They didn't go too far politically though. They just touched on it, made some little sprinkles. It was. I got to tell you, I really enjoyed this movie. I don't know if I really liked it though, liked it, or that I was just so shocked and intrigued. I was like, what's going to be next? What's going to be next? And when I thought that, like, that's probably the most, they pulled something else out, and I was like, oh God, okay, here we go. There's more, but there's some there's some movies that are like torture porny. For some reason, this didn't give me that same sort of vibe. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know what made it, because it really wasn't that difficult to watch. I mean, I like gore, so for me, but I still, when I watch it, I can go, okay, people are going to be really bothered by this. Okay, people are going to hate this. Like I can get it. And the subway scene, like Christopher was talking about, I think a part of it was that, I don't want to give it too much away, but there's blood like spurting. So it's a little bit, some of it's just a little too far over the top to make it, I don't know. I had so much fun. I mean, I would definitely watch it again. I'd watch it again, and I'd be interested to see how I feel, because I'm not sure if it was the shock value that just had me so intrigued, or I just found it fun.
Yeah. Well, it has its tongue planted firmly in his cheek and a couple other things in there, but it's
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, you're up next. What is your first impression of the sadness?
So I think it's going to be similar to what we've already heard, but it's almost nonstop. It's sort of like, think about the movie Raid, and if the fighting sequences were gore, zombie, sexual sadism, and they just keep throwing it at you. It's just more and more and more. It's almost nonstop. There's a couple of scenes where people kind of gather their thoughts, but when they're doing that, at least maybe like Chris, I was thinking, what the hell are you doing standing there looking at your friggin' phone? Get moving, pay attention, because I know when you have a close-up shot of somebody on their phone, that next thing you know, somebody's going to attack them off screen. Anyway, the extreme stuff doesn't bother me, but it kind of reminded me, I felt the way I did when I read a book called The Dark by James Herbert, which came out around 78 or 80 or so. But that movie was about, part of what happened is people just started going nuts in the neighborhoods, and they were just going over and attacking, chopping people up and stuff like that. Just outrageous stuff. So now 40 years later, after 40 more years of horror, this is sort of like, where would you take that to, I guess? Because the people were totally insane, totally left to their most prurient thoughts and desires. That's what
Those
how these
deviant,
zombies
yeah.
behave. Yeah, deviant. So, you know, if you're not a big horror fan, or even a gore hound, just don't.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to find out about your friends that love horror, what they're really like.
Maybe true.
Yeah.
So anyway, I enjoyed it. I like the two main characters. Well, the couple.
Right. Right.
I kind of like them. You know, it gave you sort of somebody to root for. I wasn't always totally in connection with their choices were, but you know,
They were
I don't know
choices.
how you'd act. And the end. Anyway, yeah, I enjoyed it. I'd be interested in knowing how much blood they use, because I
A
mean,
lot.
at some point, like, everybody is literally like drenched in blood. It seems like.
Yeah, so much so their clothes appear to change. We were talking about that before the
Yeah.
show. We'll get into it when we get into the spoiler. But yeah, I absolutely adore this movie. This movie is so gross, so disturbing. It actually goes just there's one particular element that I can't say right now. I probably can't even say on the podcast that has to do with skulls, that I really don't like ever to happen, and it happens in here. But it's and that's usually talk about trigger warnings. That's okay. That's my trigger warning. But anyway, it happens, and all kinds of crazy things happen. Nothing is sacred. Nobody is safe, no matter their age. And it is quite possibly one of the goriest films I've seen in some time. And I'm thinking back, Jeff, that some of the goriest films we've seen are all, from Taiwan, aren't they? Aren't there some of the other ones that we loved were from
Asian? I mean,
Well,
Well-
Japan's known for stuff like
Yeah.
Japan.
that.
And there is some there is some Japan, decapitation, blood.
Oh yeah,
know,
yeah.
Spurting.
Well, I can't think of the title of some of these now, but the
Tokyo Gore
top
Police
of the bus
and
gets
stuff.
cut off, and the whole.
Oh,
Yeah. So South Korea and Taiwan and all these areas over here, and they're just pushing the boundaries of what we can experience visually, and this is a gruesome, gory film, and you be prepared for it, because I wasn't, and I think that was kind of the fun.
Yeah.
There were times I literally was like Christopher was saying, like, what are they doing? I will say, the last thing I'll say before we get into this, I like that we had kind of we had one zombie that was basically
Oh, so good.
following through the entire
Yeah.
movie, that it wasn't, we still got other very memorable zombies along with them, or madmen or madwomen, like the lady that's serving the food at the beginning. But this one guy does, I mean, even at the very beginning when he's human, it's just like,
He's so good.
he's so
Yes.
good, and it's such a great,
Mhm.
yeah, and it's I think that was part of what saved it for me, because our main characters aren't really together until the final act, and probably the latter part of the final act, even more so. But so, which is part of the journey, because they're desperately trying to get back to each other, and it isn't easy on them. Digits are lost. So,
Yeah. So
But,
one of the things I wanted to say was, I hate calling them zombies because they're so unlike.
They're not. They're
and
not
they're
really
not
zombies,
just
right?
eating people. So, no, they're not. But I have to say, the contacts and how they did the red around the eyes. I know it was very simple, but it was really effective to
Right.
me. Like, I looked at some of these guys and I was like, that's actually scary. And it's only contacts and a little bit of makeup. And I'm kind of impressed by that.
Yeah, and they seem
It
to have
almost looked
like
like their eye.
reds. They have almost like red blush around their eyes or whatever. I guess the irritation or whatever. And also they have the things where sometimes they're
The
crying or whatever because the emotion.
crying.
I mean, because they have later on in
Yes.
the movie they kind of explain that it's almost like a thirst that sometimes it's hard to fight against your own thirst. I mean, by the way, I've heard that this is actually influenced. There's a graphic novel called Crossed, which is about this sort of pandemic happens where it brings out the most evil in yourself, but you're still intelligent. You can still have use whatever talents you have when you were normal, and this seems to definitely be influenced by it. But yeah, I think what makes it different, like you were talking about, Crystal, like I hate torture porny type movies, but this feels like more like Dead Alive because it's
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah, it's
the blood. I mean, like we talked about the train sequence. There's a part where this guy gets stabbed in his neck.
yeah.
It's
It's
like
like,
a whole
I
pail
love
of
it.
blood splatters up. There's no
Yeah.
human has that much blood. That's like
There's a
10
lot of
people.
blood in this.
That's
scene.
like 10 people's blood coming out of him. So even I, as much as I didn't really laugh a lot during that, I did laugh during that part, Crystal, because I was like, where did
Yeah.
that blood come from?
Yeah.
But I think because, and then like just the bloody mess around things and just like the over the top goriness, it did feel like, it felt a little bit like there's, like we talked about, society. It feels like some of that has some of the 80s over the topness in parts.
Definitely does.
And also, even though it's a Taiwanese film, I feel like you could easily relate in the characters. Like there's the
Oh, yeah.
asshole guy who's chasing, who's almost like the incel guy. You're like, oh well, women are always like this type character. And
Oh, yeah.
you have like the government, talking about stuff.
Oh,
And I mean,
the jerky dude, the dude that had the nerve to call her a drama queen. He got punched in the nose, remember?
Yes.
And then he
Oh,
calls the
the
girl
gate-
who
the
lost
gate
her
guy.
eye. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, drama queen." I died laughing. I was like, "This guy, what
well,
a douche."
the little dorky dude, he had like what was it, the hentai picture on his
Yeah.
phone when she had to unlock when he had to
Yeah.
unlock it for her.
Mhm.
So there are elements of where it's not like totally straight, but yeah, I will say I think the main actress is the most strongest part of the film.
Which is good because she's a lead.
And yeah, because I mean, even throughout all the crap that she has to go through, that she just gets piled on or whatever when it comes to like horrible things. But I will say that end scene, her reaction is that scene it's just amazing to watch.
Mhm.
Especially how it unravels, because I don't know about you guys, when they talked about that you're trying to fight against a thirst, I wasn't sure how that scene was going to play out.
Mhm.
And it was just interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things where it's like like Chris was saying, you're like, oh, what's it? Oh, whoa, they went there. Oh no, because there's a part where you hear the baby crying, like, oh no.
Oh God, I know. I was like,
we went there.
oh,
Mm.
oh.
Yeah, because there's a we won't get into that too much, but I mean, how can you take the the violence seriously when they take the one guy at the basketball court and they wrap the wire around it and they grab his leg
And they rack him.
and
I'm
like,
that plays out
Ow.
is even more twisted.
I
how
know
that
he's like,
plays
why
out.
Oh,
did
I
you grab
know.
him?
I mean, and I will say, as much as I hate like the assault, the sexual assault parts, there is one part where the guy's driving his bike and the guy's like having sex with a dead body or whatever, and then
Yeah.
he turns out and he's running on with his naked ass.
His pants.
It's like, oh God.
Well, I think that's the first time we really get a hint that it goes that far, right?
Yeah, although, yeah. Well, there's one part. No, there's actually one part on the train where the guy kind of unbuttons his pants, and it's implied that he
Oh yeah.
had
Mhm.
sex with the
So,
guy while he's being.
I think
his
that's
eyes are being pulled
yeah.
out.
Yeah, I think that's why, like, they don't dwell on, they imply the sexual assault. Now, they do have a sex scene, but that's consensual. Okay.
I think if they
Creepy
chose,
and but consensual. Okay, at least they only just imply that they're gonna have this. So that I think is what makes it more bearable. It's
it's
just the
like
idea of it, but
well,
Yeah,
it's
I
not.
mean,
like
They don't.
it's like 7. It's like there's parts in 7. There's like the knife part in 7 that it's implied, but they don't really show it. But you remake it in your mind, so it's even worse. And like I think Doc was a little bit hinting at it, but there is a scene that's like, oh, they're going there, and they luckily they kind of they don't show it, but
you get the impression, yeah.
knowing that it's happening. It's like, oh, I don't know about you
Oh,
guys.
you
I was
know
like, oh
exactly
my,
what's
I was like,
happening.
oh,
I was like, what?
Oh, and the dialogue he has after when he refers
Oh,
to
I
it.
know it's so
Well,
Oh
his
my
dialogue
God.
funny.
throughout is
My
makes him
God,
the worst villain.
he's
because
so
calling
good
calling
though.
her the C word and saying like really derogatory things, and it's like that's the villains you really want to hate, and you hope that they get
Mhm.
their comeuppance at some point in the film. But he plays it well, and we talked about like I think the cool thing of the costumes, because the guy had like a white shirt with his tie, and he started getting more bloody and bloodier to where he was almost like a red shirt by the end of it, to where he's almost like the devil
Ripping.
by the end of
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was just so cool how they
Mhm.
paid attention to that the attention to detail.
And his body language acting was fantastic. Like when
So
like
he was
he's
my
at the end of the
favorite.
hallway. Yeah.
Easy. Like Doc, like what you mentioned, even before he became sick, like when he was having that conversation with her, and I was like, dude, he's doing it so well. He is making me uncomfortable.
Right.
Just the way he wouldn't stop. I was like, oh my God, this guy. I thought I was going to, that's actually probably, that was probably the hardest part of the movie for me.
That
On
was
the
more
subway, how
triggering
he was
than
doing. I was like, I'm gonna have a panic attack.
Or when
Oh
he
my
when he
God.
when
Leave
he
her alone.
when,
Leave her alone.
when he closed that gate and he stuck his tongue.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes.
This guy
It was so creepy. I
nuts.
love him. It was wonderful. Like
he did a great job.
yeah, a good villain is.
Very disturbing guy.
Yeah, I mean, even when he's just standing outside the window holding the axe, nobody sees him but the girl, and he just looks so, it's like, oh shit, it's about to get real.
Yeah,
But let's talk about Jeff. You mentioned you really thought the girl at the beginning, the lady that's serving the food, that
yeah.
she got your attention, or was that you, Christopher?
I think it was Jeff.
It wasn't
The
me.
one that threw all
The
the hot
fries
water
to
on
the
the guy,
head.
and
The fries to the head.
The
Yeah.
crazy.
The creepy lady, and then she's like, "Handsome boy."
Oh, yeah. The one with the
Yeah.
long, stringy white hair.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when she does what she does. That's when you know.
Well, and the camera
get
doesn't
real.
go away, and I think
Right.
that's the cool thing. A lot of times they edit like special effect shots, or it's very quick. And this one, it's like they're just going in there pulling skin off, and it's like camera doesn't shoot away. You see it like right in front of it, like up close to the camera, and I'm like, oh god.
Well, they really
I loved it. It's amazing.
they really set you up for that anticipation, because the movie opens with, in the background, we're hearing these news reports
Right.
of
Oh yeah.
this virus that nobody's really getting hurt yet, but the experts say one tiny little, God, I've been listening
One
to
part
this
of the
crap for
DNA sequence. Yeah.
2 years. One
is
part
like,
of the DNA sequence could morph into the next version, and all this stuff could happen. And they keep switching the channel to try to get away from it. Nobody, nowhere, no matter where they go, they're still hearing it. So then they're just kind of going on, ignoring it, living their life. And so you just sort of, you're just looking, he's talking to that guy, that his neighbor that's out on the balcony, and you're going, is he acting normal? You're just on. I was just on edge watching.
I was
each
thinking he
character
was
going,
going to
which
turn.
one is-
Yeah, first.
Yeah. So she was. Yeah. And the guy or the lady or whoever it was with the long stringy white hair, there was no doubt there was something wrong with her.
So
that was like Dawn of the Dead kind of, where you
Yeah.
know all the different zombies.
she's like,
and
she's got that face.
Yeah.
So we haven't mentioned. And it really like struck me is the cartoon he was watching. Do you remember the cartoon?
Yeah, the wolf and the
Yes.
It actually
And then
winked.
and it was raping
right.
someone. Did you see it? in the background, it was
Oh,
Ra-
I didn't see
Yeah,
that.
yeah. He was fucking some. He was he was
You're getting busy.
copulating
You're
with.
getting busy.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I'm
Although
sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but
but also
yeah, it was a trip.
the opening credit sequence, which shows the virus mutating.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was a really good thing to
pretty
sort of
cool.
show how different this virus went from a normal virus to something like, Alvin and the Killer Monks.
Oh, and I did like how he said that the virus, like part of the sequence, resembles that is closely related to that of like rabies. So I'm like, okay, they're trying to sell the science, and I'll buy it. Like the whole violence part. And I'm like, at least they tried to give us more, something more plausible. I mean,
They prepared you.
I appreciate. I mean, they explained everything. The story was obviously well thought out. They knew. Yeah, it's pretty impressive, really.
It was
I wonder how.
fairly straightforward and simple too. They didn't go. I mean, they still had enough in there to, give it some substance, but it was very, it's trying to reunite and escape, and that's pretty much it, right?
And I love the tears. I love the tears because
Yes.
the moment that you see someone's tears, you know for sure what's happening and what's going to happen, and it's like, oh. I don't know. I like I mean, we knew it was going to happen, but I like the foreshadowing. I don't know. It's really well done. It's fun.
It's pretty slick.
As
Pretty
long
slick.
as you can get past all of the.
Did somebody say that when this played at Fantasia that there was a trigger warning is the first time they had to do it? Did you say that, Christopher? Or
I
Jeff?
think Jeff did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it in an interview.
I can imagine. And we should probably put that in here too. Like, you could get triggered on this a couple of different ways.
Oh yeah, majorly. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think it definitely doesn't pull any punches. It doesn't go like it doesn't go like Serbian film far, but it does
Right.
it is pretty extreme in the things that it does to where you're kind of shocked it went there, and it's like, oh, it went there.
The
Oh,
volume
crap,
is
it went
way
there.
more than Serbian film.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's
True,
Mhm.
true, but you don't feel like you have to
Go
Take
and
a
scrub
a
yourself
shower.
down with freaking bleach. Yeah.
scrub your brain cells.
Yeah.
This is a movie you might actually want to watch again, where you probably don't want to watch it.
Yeah, yeah. So,
All right.
Yeah.
if you're not into it, and I think most of the people watching us probably are, but if you're not into, just imagine as extreme of violence as you probably can, mixed with sexual deprivation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think half our audience just signed on, said, "Yay!"
Yeah. Yeah. If you thought Doctor Strange 2 was too scary, this is definitely
No.
not.
Yeah. Don't make this your first horror film. This will not introduce you well. But all right, let's go
Not a
ahead.
good entry.
Yeah, no, let's get into this. Let's wrap this up with our final thoughts. Our score 1 to 5, and by golly, a favorite scene. My. Christopher G. Mohr, you're up first.
Yeah, I was really surprised by how this film turned out. I mean, I was a little bit scared in the very beginning because it's kind of slow and it feels like, am I watching the right movie? This feels like a kind of a slow, boring drama. But then when it gets, puts his foot on the gas, it goes for it, and it's one of those films that like it goes here and you're like, oh crap, it can't go any worse. Oh, it went worse. Oh no, it went there. Oh, and I think if you did a drinking game every time I covered my mouth, you'd be a little bit inebriated. I enjoyed it because I think it's really well shot. I think it's definitely some of the best effects I've seen in a while, and so much of it. There's so many practical effects in this. And to be honest, I didn't see much CGI. I couldn't point out any part that had CGI, so it feels mostly practical for the most part, and it really works. And I think the main actress is really good. I think that that's very powerful. There's these moments I was just totally shocked. Just simple things. scene involving Umbrella, like, oh, whoa, okay, we're not playing now. But yeah, yeah, the sadness, I think, yeah, if you're sort of like, if you feel like the films you've been watching really haven't affected you much, and you want to see something that really stands out, this film, it's a very shocking, this podcast is Gruesome Magazine, and this puts the gruesome in Gruesome Magazine.
It does.
Sure.
Oh my God.
I think sadness really is an underwhelming title for what happened.
It's the only thing I would put against it.
It should be called Madness, is what it should be called, not Sadness.
I mean, I get it. There's a context that makes the title.
Yeah,
right.
It's more subtle. It's not. But
and this film is anything but subtle.
There's no. Yes, this does not be under the definition of subtle in the definition in the dictionary. So as for a rating, I think my only issue is just some of the motivations of the characters that kind of annoyed me and kind of took me out of it, because like, oh, come on. But it just happened so many times. I just got annoyed with characters. But at the same time, there was also the moments where the characters did things I wasn't expecting as well. So it kind of balanced out a little bit. So I will give this a 4.5 out of 5. I really
nice.
I think it's one of the more impressive films I've seen in a while. Just in the guts it has to sort of go there.
It's literal guts. Yep.
Little guts. And I mean, there's so much blood in this. I think Herschel Gordon Lewis is like, oh, I don't put enough blood in my films. As for favorite scene, or maybe we'll say memorable scene, because
most memorable might be the better way to put it.
Let me say this. I'm gonna split this up. I'm gonna say the favorite gore scene and favorite scene.
Okay.
The umbrella part.
Oh my God! Yes.
Literally shocked the crap out of me, because I don't know, just the way it was shot. I was not expecting that. So kudos. But as for, I'll say favorite scene, I'll say it's probably the last scene between the girl and her guy, because you're not really. I mean, you kind of know where it's going, but you're not really sure. And then the dialogue's like, oh crap.
Yes. Oh my God. I know.
Whoa. And I think more than anything, what's kind of impressive is the script on this, because the dialogue of some of these evil characters, some of the things they say are so overtly horrible, but it feels right within that. And I think that moment, it's a simple moment, but the dialogue just shows the really menace of that scene. And then also just at the end of it, you're like, oh crap.
Yeah,
I know what's about to happen here. So I'll say that last scene is probably the most memorable scene for me in the film.
Definitely. All right, Crystal, you're up next. Final thoughts, your score and favorite scene, or most memorable.
There's a tear in my beer. I don't know why that's in my brain, but the tear thing gets me. This movie is shockingly good. It's really shockingly good. Like, I had so much fun with it. I'm just going to give you the score first, because mine was the same as Christopher, 4.5.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be on my top 10. I'm certain it's going to be in my top 10. I mean, and I love Christopher's favorite scene, because, I mean, when he says, I love you, blah, blah, and then I'm going to cut off your... I'm like,
I know. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, okay. It's like there really is a lot of emotional. It's so interesting. There are movies that have the same sort of things and deal with the same sort of things and have vulgar characters say things like this, and it doesn't work. But somehow this movie works, and it doesn't feel as sad and depressing as a lot of the movies that have this sort of stuff. So I just think it's really interesting. I mean, I don't even know how do you pick a favorite scene, because there's like almost the whole movie. Like, there's so much I like, but bottom line, I just died laughing. It's the president grenade in the mouth.
Oh
like,
my
I
God,
died. I
okay.
started I was like, wait, what? And it was just like, yeah, it was that. I mean, it was brilliant. It was wonderful. Like I was kind of hoping that's what was going to happen. Yeah. Yeah. And just see, and that's why it's so brilliant. You have like whatever the security chief or whatever talking, and then you can the acting is really good from like pretty much everyone in the movie. He starts to get a little bit quieter and more thoughtful and slower with this process. You could see him working through this, and then you see that tear. It's like, oh, it's good. The tear is, it's brilliant. It's a really brilliant technique because you know what's going to happen.
Yep.
It's good. Good.
Good. All right,
Sorry.
Jeff Norser. Your final thoughts, your score, and your favorite or most memorable scene.
I will just echo what they're saying, and I think it's just so well done because these characters stand out so much to us, including we haven't really mentioned her, but Molly.
Molly, yes.
Oh yeah.
When the lead, whose name I forget right this minute,
Cat.
She's sitting next to this guy, and so this is gonna be my favorite scene too. So I'll just say that right now, the train scene, because, and it's a fairly long scene because it starts off with, and I know it's no shock to anybody, but I'm not a woman, so I don't know what that's like. But to me, it seemed like the guy he's just one of those lonely guys that just wants to talk to somebody and can't keep his mouth shut. She's trying to get out of the conversation and he just keeps talking. But then it goes over the top. And so then she moves and this other girl comes and sits down, and then he just gets worse and he gets worse. And it's just so well done. And then you start to see things start happening in different parts of the car. And that's when it just really goes ape shit. And you think about what it would be like if just, with that amount of energy. And it isn't just the one person kind of hits that berserk point. As that starts to happen, more and more people are hitting that point.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So it gets out of control. So that's I would have liked to have taken, because the part that Crystal talked about where the woman jumps out, falls off the building or whatever, that told me what I think we were in for, unless it would be one of those deals where they gave you this sign of this very graphic in your face violence, because this wasn't you fall on a car and the car dents, and there's the car alarm and the glass goes off. This is like a body
shoes
falls
flying
on the pavement and bounces.
Shoes fly off and it's great.
Yeah.
Great touches.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then the other thing I wanted to bring up, you've said that it was political but not too far over the top, but I think for me it was a lot more political because they start off with all these warnings about the virus that nobody's listening to, and then boom, the whole rest of the movie is like, why didn't you listen, you dumb, and then at the very end you end up with an ending that's almost like reminded me of Night of the Living Dead, only it's even more tragic because of the possibilities there, I guess, or the opportunities lost. So anyway, I enjoyed the hell out of this, and I'm going 4.5 as well. Although I want to say 5 because I have a hard time going. What did I need to improve here? It's like this guy took these zombie movies and went, these guys aren't showing what it would really be like. If people just went absolutely no inhibitions, crazy. So anyway, I don't know. I'm going to go 4.5 though.
4.5. Yeah, I'm going to go 4.5 as well. That's what I was thinking. And it's just that, well, I even though, I don't know why I'm pulling back as well, but I think it's just because there are some triggering events that, it does do some things that Yeah, it's just, yeah, I'm just going to shut up and leave it there. But this is definitely going to be on my top 10 list. There's no way this movie can't be in my top 10 list. I mean, visually, this movie is all out. It just, there's nothing. I can't imagine a film that's going to approach what I've seen in this movie, in a way that makes it entertaining, because it is entertaining.
Yes.
You root for the characters. The fact that Kat saves Molly and takes her with her, is actually a really interesting scene. It's a good, Michael Myers chase scene, right? Through the empty halls of the subway. So, or the train station, wherever they're at. And that ends with introducing another character that we stick with for, a good third of the movie until, nobody makes it out alive, but hey. So, I mean, and what really won me over is the businessman, the bad guy, because it was just, he was just so vile, and so he represented so much because he was meek, right? He was, you could see that he was sad, and, he was angry because he didn't, socially he was awkward, right? And everything. He just couldn't get it together. But then when he turned in, when he was uninhibited by this thing, he just turned into this crazy monster of a, Michael Myers kind of monster running around. And I that really kept the film solid for me. And I felt like, he was after this girl. We know why in his head, he was after this girl. They established it in the scene on the train, right? So it totally made sense that wherever she went, he would find a way to follow her. And that worked. That worked. It was straight out of that. So there's Michael Myers, there's Halloween, there's The Shining, there's all kinds of movies are referenced in this in a good way. And it is a lot of fun. It does have to come with a little bit of a trigger warning. There will be people that will not enjoy this movie for where it goes.
For sure.
But there'll be other people that just absolutely fall. It's a well-made, well-crafted, well-thought-out film, even though it wants to, really gross us out.
Be depraved. Yeah. It's like they're like, what can we do that would really mess with people's brains? Let's make sure we do it all, or at least mention it.
Yeah. Which kind of makes our heroine that much more of a heroine, makes her that much more relatable. You really root for her to survive. And you really want, although I don't believe their names were Jim and Kat, but you want them to get together. So you guys took like all my favorite scenes, but there's some scenes that I want to mention. I'm not going to, because it's just not going to be something I'm going to mention, but I am going to do two different scenes that I thought really brought the horror into it, as opposed to the gross, right? A lot of this movie is just gruesome, right? It's shock value, but there are times that it actually gets it really gets scary. And I think, when the businessman is chasing him through the hallway is one of them. But another one is when Jim is facing the guy with the
neighbor.
The
my gosh, yes.
And he's holding
so
on to it. And but it was so suspenseful, and you just like, oh my gosh, you're there's something bad's going to happen to your fingers if you don't watch out. And then the guy picks up one of the fingers.
Yes.
It was just oh my god. So something like that. And then the other scene that's kind of like it as well is when they finally she takes Molly and the gatekeeper guy to the hospital, because he kind of punched her in the nose. Molly punches him in the nose, is great. But anyway, they go to the hospital and everybody's grouped in the waiting room because nobody's in the hospital anymore, right? And they're just watching all the craziness on the TV with the president and everything. And out of the corner of her eye, she sees the businessman standing there outside with the axe holding on. And I just thought that was so well done. And you knew what was going to happen. And that was really great. And then the gore just flies after that. So I could keep going. There's so much in this film to like.
That was like the John Carpenter in The Mouth of Madness. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
Okay, yeah,
When,
I'll go with
the
that.
guys outside the hotel. But yeah, it's
Yep.
like so many great moments. Oh wait, there's even just how even sort of how Molly switches too is kind of
Molly's
creepy.
gross. I mean, even at the beginning when he's trying to get out of the food place and the girl gets hit by the car, and then the guy in the car jumps and and then they chase him down. And it's
just their evil glee is just like
yes,
so creepy.
Yes.
and what cop's trying to shoot him?
You can't win.
No, there's a lot. I mean, they have a lot going up against them. All right, well, there you go. We went long on this one, and it deserved every second of it. All right, that is our review of The Sadness. It's streaming now on Shudder. You have Shudder. We know you have Shudder. Watch the film and
You
let us
better
know
have
what you
Shudder.
think. Leave comments down below. Are we praising this too heavy, or should we have given it 5s? Let us know. Let us know.
But yeah, just know that it's trigger warning. Just
Yeah. Some of you, you know who you are. All right, Christopher, thank you for joining me. This was so much fun.
Totally. Thanks for
It
having me.
was.
No problem. I won't be riding trains anytime soon.
No, I don't think it's
No.
find a new way of transportation.
No.
I
I don't want some guy trying to have these conversations with me. That's too much. The blood and gore I'll take. It's okay.
Okay, gotcha.
Keep an eye out for that.
Gotcha. All right, let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, everybody.
Gruesome Magazine.